I've told you guys before, like hanging out with you young guys, like give me so much energy. Like I'm already, my feet barely touch the ground as it is, but now having to hang out and keep up with you young guys, it's like, all right, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Welcome to the Top Contractor Podcast, the show that highlights the remarkable individuals who are shaping the construction industry and pushing its boundaries with engaging interviews, expert discussions, and real-world stories of success. I'm Bill Ryman, your broker builder, and I'm here with my co-host,
Nate Swank. Good morning, Bill.
Morning, Nate. Good to see you again, man, as always. Good to do another show with you. How's things going with you today?
Good. Better than you. You look very tired.
Yes. And to report to the audience, my wife did have our baby on October 5th. So, yes, the lack of sleep has definitely began, but been worth every moment. We were actually chatting about it before the show started. So, relying a lot on coffee, especially the bigger ones here, thanks to Starbucks is sponsoring today's show. But yeah, man, it's been awesome. So yeah, that's life. But let's get into this a little bit. We got a special guest today. But before we get into that, Nate, what's this show all about?
Yes, sir. So on the TCS podcast, we have 3 different styles of episodes. 1 is a deep dive into a specific topic that me and Bill discuss. 2 is construction news and how it relates to you. And 3 is we bring on a guest and interview them and just kind of see how their experiences provide value to you. And today I'm very excited. This guy he's too humble. Let's put it that way. He's a freaking goat. He's insane, the stuff that he's done, but he's very humble about it. So let's bring on Brian Beckner.
Hey guys, awesome, man. I'm humbled and I'm privileged to be here, man. I've told you guys before, like hanging out with you young guys, like give me so much energy. Like I'm already, my feet barely touch the ground as it is, but now having to hang out and keep up with you young guys, it's like, all right, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Man, it's good to have you. We're excited to have you today. We know we're going to get a lot of great things from you today too, and a lot of good value for the audience. Let's get into it a little bit, though. Let's hear about your background, who you are, what you're doing, and then we'll kind of go from there. So who is Brian Beckner?
Well, who's Brian Beckner? First off, I'm a husband. I'm a father to 2. That's who I am in the real world, right, as they say. But, I think maybe I'll share a story, just kind of how it all kind of came together for me and where I'm at and sitting in this chair right now. I'll keep it short and sweet as much as I can, but I think for the listeners, some of my background and kind of where I came from would really resonate, and I think guys can relate to it. But I was born in the construction world. People ask all the time, as maybe we'll talk about on this podcast, that I came from 25 years in the medical field, actually a chiropractor, but there was a long story before I did that to end up here. So, my dad was a pipeline engineer, and I literally grew up 7 years old, running 245 cat excavators, digging, 20-foot deep ditches for storm drains at 7 years old. And so that was my first experience into construction. There was some things that happened in California in the late 70s. I'm giving away my age. I'm 52 years old, right? But in the late 70s, the recession hit California pretty hard, right? And so businesses owed my dad millions of dollars, and everyone filed bankruptcy. And he was a stubborn German from Nebraska that was not about to file bankruptcy, and basically sold off all of his properties, buildings, everything he could. And he kept one rubber tire tractor, and he went to work digging ditches for other pipeline companies. And it wasn't really getting him where he wanted to get to. I remember these are vivid memories as a kid, thinking back at 52 years old. I can still remember some of those moments for sure. But he went into a really deep, dark depression, like really a deep, dark depression. I remember him sitting in front of the furnace in our living room in his underwear, drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes, reading the morning paper every day. Thinking back, as Bill, you talked about being a parent, Nate, you're soon to be parent. Like, I can't imagine what he was going through, right? New family and, business that went from, scratch to millions of dollars and overnight was pretty much gone. And ironic story about how the asphalt world came into this, but he was actually on his way to the liquor store to get a pack of cigarettes and saw a guy running a tractor on the street, and he was digging a trench in the asphalt. And my dad tells this story to this day. This guy was just beating the hell out of the tractor, as my dad saying is, that construction Nebraska slang. He was herking and jerking and not getting anywhere, right? And he had an idea like, hey, you know what? Like, I can do this. I don't have to dig ditches. I can create a niche in the asphalt world of things. My dad actually won the Case Tractor Rodeo in California back in the 80s, and he actually went to a national Case Tractor Rodeo, and he actually finished in the top 5. So he's been running heavy equipment since he was in high school. And so what happened was he had a buddy that worked for the largest and biggest at that time asphalt paving contractor here in Southern California. And they started using my dad to do their small asphalt removals. And they were doing like schools and sidewalks, and it was small patch stuff. But their bread and butter was, 2 to 6 mile, highways and streets. And he had this idea that, back in those days, they used to use big rubber tire front end loaders to do the removals of the asphalt. And they actually had a big project here. It's funny, I drive that street all the time and I still think about it to this day. It was a 6 mile, 6-lane road, 3 lanes on one side, 3 on the other, with an island in the middle. And he had this idea that he could take that front end loader bucket, and Nate, you'll appreciate this being a welding fabricator and whatnot, but he actually designed a bucket that was like the front end of a loader, and he built it to be put on a track excavator that they dig ditches with. No one was using excavators to remove asphalt at that time. So he went to the higher ups of this company and he made a deal. He said, listen, he goes, I know that I can improve your guys' production using this, what we're doing with this excavator. He didn't even have the bucket, by the way. He wasn't even prepared. He went and he said, I'll tell you what. He says, you put the rubber tire loader on one side of the street, I'll sit on the other side, and I guarantee at the end of the day, I will have removed twice as much as that front end loader. So real quick story, by noon, he had already doubled what the other loader was doing. Then he came back and sat on top of the asphalt or the rock base and dirt and removed another 24 inches with the excavator. And at the end of the day, they got rid of the rubber tire loader, and from there it was history. And he brought me into the business when I was a freshman in high school. I was every break I was working with him on these jobs. We had tractors to help break up the asphalt, concrete saws, and all those kinds of things. So, he did that for a number of years, and we were actually on a job site. I'm trying to think of the years. It was early 90s, I guess, thinking back. And I picked up a piece of concrete to load it in the bucket. We were on a job site, and I pretty much threw my back out and ended up at the chiropractor's office. And the rest is history. My father handed me a business in construction, but I was a people person, sitting on a piece of equipment. That's what I knew. Like, that's what my dad did. My dad's a very smart guy, doesn't need a calculator, knows all about different trades in construction, but didn't know the sales side of things, didn't really understand marketing, business at a high level. He didn't teach me those kinds of things. And so I think emotionally at that young age, I was already done. I'm like, how am I going to do this for another 50 years? Like, all I knew was doing the physical work. And so I ended up going to chiropractic college. Crazy how life unfolds, right? Went to did 8 years of college, right? Went to chiropractic college, graduated, was in practice for 10 years, seeing patients. And what I ended up doing was as a chiropractor, and most doctors, that is, and it's amazing, right? What contractors can learn from doctors about building their business and sales and marketing. There's a ton of crossover that you wouldn't even think, right? I mean, we're in the business to serve people, and that's what doctors do as well. I think if you're not in the business to serve people, I don't care what business you're in the wrong business. It's got to be about that. Obviously, we're in the business to make money, unfortunately with doctors, they have this calling that they're here to help and serve people, but they forget there's also a business side. And so, knowing how things are going with insurance over the years, things are getting harder and harder for doctors. I had to figure out a way to niche my business and be able to bring value to people that they would want to come in and exchange their hard-earned money for a service that they're used to going to a doctor with and plopping down their insurance card and having it be paid for. And it requires a very different mindset. It requires totally different marketing, different communication styles to be able to allow that to happen. So I just jumped into everything I could related to business, sales, and marketing. And as a result of that, I created a consulting company where I was consulting with initially chiropractors, and then medical doctors started to get involved with the work that we were doing because they were trying to find other ways to expand their services outside of the insurance world. And so I started working with a lot of medical doctors as well. And then things kind of unfolded over that time. I did that for a number of years, and we had an opportunity to create an incredible group of what they called interventional orthopedic clinics. And I was really in charge of training our doctors who were in each of these clinics how to communicate, how to build value around the services, and have them pay cash because they were cash-based services and they were not inexpensive services. So lo and behold, Nate, you and I talked a little bit about this before. I think last week when we were at lunch, sometimes businesses and things don't always work out in the way that, we had a handshake agreement about how things were going to unfold with what we were doing there. We had it was unfortunate, but the CEO ended up developing pancreatic cancer. He survived. We're still really good friends because that's how I do things. We're still buddies. We still talk. And but the reality is I stepped away from that. And I was really got to a point where I was tired of dealing with doctors. All right. And I think this equates over to contractors as well, is that they forget about what business they're in. They're so caught up in doing what they do. Michael Gerber, he's an author of a book called The E-Myth, and he talks about an analogy about a baker who wants to basically create a business selling pies, but she's so enamored by her pies that she forgets the most important part, which is you have to have customers, right? And that's kind of what happens with doctors. We would go off to seminars, and I go to seminars and conventions with contractors and whatnot, and they're over in the corner talking about how to do the work, right? Like the actual work of contracting or doctoring, if you will. And what they should be thinking about is how the hell do I build the business, right? That's what they should really be doing. And so I just, I got to a point where I'm like, you know what, I think it's time for a pivot. I'm very blessed. I have multiple family members in the asphalt world, and my brother-in-law of all people came to me with the owner of our company here, and we sat down and we talked about, hey, we're trying to build and grow this asphalt paving company. We need a guy like you to come in here and help us grow it. And the rest is history. So I've been sitting in this chair now in 5 years, actually this month. And so all of those things I learned the last 25 years on the medical side, we really intertwined all of those things, the sales, the marketing, the way that my sales team communicates to prospective customers, proposals, the verbiage that we use. There's just so many things that we've been able to intertwine outside of the contractor and the construction world into what we're doing. And we're having awesome success. I mean, every year it's just been a record year, and just very grateful to be able to do what I do. So that's who I am in a nutshell, man.
I want to go. I mean, there was a lot right there that you said, and one of the main things that stuck out to me too was you said a lot of the contractors, when you go to certain events or something like that, or other things like that, they're in the corner talking about just doing the work or the work that they do, when they should be talking about how to build their actual business. I mean, what you just did with the consulting on the medical side of things, obviously that's helped you on your business angle too. So go a little bit deeper into that, Dot, a little bit, on, because contractors struggle with that. I think, we are absorbed by like what we're actually doing rather than getting more business, gaining more leads, doing all these things. Nate talks about it all the time in his content on social media. Contractors really, they get so absorbed with what they're doing, but they don't do enough to get more of what they're doing. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's something to be said about learning and understanding marketing. I have been very blessed. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of money invested in studying with some of the best marketers and salespeople in the country. I've been doing it for years. And it doesn't matter if it's a doctor or a contractor. It's that they become almost really. It's like they contractors forget the business that they're really in. Like they think they're in the contracting business, right? They think they are in the welding business, right? They think they're in the house building business. And the reality, when you shift your mindset around is, okay, that's what I do, right? That's the service that I provide. But the business that I really need to be in to grow the business is the marketing in sales of those things that I do. It's not what I do. It's one thing, people pay you money for a service, right? Well, they expect it. And so, like, for example, in the asphalt paving world, they expect you to, provide a service for them. They have to redo their parking lot, whatever that might look like. They expect it to be done. And you could do the greatest work in the world. You can sit back and admire it and say, man, this is the best paving job you've ever done. But the reality is that's what they're paying you for. It requires more from you to really have it grow, generate referrals. It's not enough to just give them what they pay you for. It requires more. And it starts with the marketing, it's the communication, it's developing trust. It's not enough to develop trust to just, think, hey, we're great at what we do. We're the biggest, we have the best equipment in the world, right? Or in the best in the area, right? I've heard that. These are some of the conversations I've heard from some other contractors, and they're not bad guys. It's just that's what they're enamored with, right? But you have to develop trust with that potential customer, if you will, that they see the value in what you bring, and they understand that you understand their problem better than they do. And so they want to continue to use you, and they want to refer you to their colleagues, their friends, depending upon what industry that you are within construction. But I think that's what I see oftentimes going to events with other contractors. They're over there talking about different machines to do work, and those things are important, right? But if you spend most of your time focused on that, you should be finding who are the smartest people in the room, right? Who are the most successful people in that room, and you should be picking their brain about how the heck they built that business. And most of the time, it's going to be based on not just blood, sweat, and tears, but also being smart about the marketing and how they go about selling their services. And once again, I keep going back. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor or you're a contractor. It's the human nature to want to gravitate to what we're the most comfortable with sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, the huge key point there too is, I mean, we're all marketing businesses. That's what we are. I mean, if you're not marketing, you're failing, plain and simple. And the more marketing you can do, or the more strategies. I mean, I'm always trying to think of different things I can do. For a fact, Nate is too, with the content daily all the time, and yourself as well, Brian, too. I mean, that was an awesome point there. Another thing to touch on, I want you to touch on that a little bit, though. Like, what are some strategies that you're doing on the marketing end? Also, what are some strategies? You talked about marketing, trust, and communication. So what are some strategies you're doing for each one of those? So, like, let's say marketing strategies, how are you building trust? And then how are you over communicating to your clients as far as your business?
There's a lot that goes into that, right? There's a lot of different questions there. I studied with a world-renowned, what they call trust-based selling expert. And what I refer to and what he refers to as trust-based selling is there are certain words and phrases that we automatically use, especially people who are, well, actually, if you're not a real salesman, if you will, or those who are veteran salesmen, they don't realize that they're using words and phrases constantly that they're not aware of, that actually creates subconscious pressure on your prospect's mind when you're talking about things or you're selling them. What it does, it creates hidden pressure on them. And so what happens, right? You take on this persona of a salesperson. And I keep going back to the doctoring, right? I had to train these doctors how to build value around the service without coming across like a salesman. And because people don't want to be sold from their doctor. Well, they don't want to be sold from anybody for that matter. That's why this is so beautiful with what we're doing, right? Who would think that we would be able to take this stuff from the medical side and bring it into the contracting side to have these conversations with people? But we're really conscious about the words and phrases that we use when we're communicating with a prospective customer. We take a very unassuming approach, which is probably different from a lot. Like, we think that, we have the solution, right? We know that we're good. We know that we can do this. But that individual coming to you, they don't know you from Adam. And so for us, we always are coming from the place of, listen, we never assume that we're the right fit. I don't even know what you're dealing with. I don't know what your problem is. So share with me what it is that you're dealing with and what kind of help you're wanting. And we engage that conversation on those initial phone calls from them. And what that does is it causes them to come towards you versus retreat from you. Because if they think that they're being sold, especially over the phone, right? Because you can't see expressions on faces and whatnot. And it's easy to lose sales. And I say you lose sales at hello if you're not communicating the right way. So that's kind of where we start on that. The proposals that we put together, we're very conscious about the words and things that we have within those proposals, because those things, the written word, can create hidden sales pressure as well. And when you're being sold to, think about it, if you go anywhere and you buy something, right? Or I always say maybe it's a little different on selling a home, right? Because people really, they want to go spend that money, right? But it depends upon who they use as that real estate agent or the contractor. If you put pressure on people and subconsciously using those types of words and phrases, it causes people to retreat from you, and that's the killer when it comes to sales. So that's the things that we're doing from the communication side of things. There's a lot more that goes into that we can maybe dive into as well. But on the marketing side, we are doing some grassroots stuff where we are involved with certain niches. Certain affinity groups. Our big target market is commercial real estate property managers. We do a lot of work with HOAs, so we're actually targeting community association property managers and property management companies, and so we are within some of those organizations where maybe we have a booth, right, where people are stopping by and they're having conversations. But the great thing is all those things I mentioned earlier, all the conversations that we have, the signage that we have. It's keeping in mind the psychology of people, right? And so we're able to generate leads and great conversations. Like I've always said, like if we go to these events, I'm not interested in meeting 1,000 people and just, hey, drop your business card here. I would much rather have 5 deep level conversations with people that I can really understand what it is that they're struggling with or what their problem is. And then work from there, right? So sometimes in sales, it's like, hey, just make the phone call, let's just dial, right? It's like, no, we talk about, let's go deep in the conversation to get in their mind to understand what their problem is. And it's like, yeah, but you're just doing asphalt. Yeah, but you're still dealing with human beings and people. And that's the big difference. And so that's what really helps separates us. And it starts with those types of conversations. So, that's some of the marketing that we're doing there. We're doing a lot of stuff on the social side now. And we've talked about it before with the groups that we're involved with. It's like the personal branding. That's what I'm really starting to understand is that, even though we're in the construction world, and maybe for us, we're working, kind of more business to business if we're working with property management companies, but there's still human beings within those businesses. So we're still selling, human to human. If you will. And so, if we're targeting those things, there's the personal branding side. I'm really starting to tap into and understand how important it is to show the faces within the company so that you can start to promote the culture of the company. I think it's important for people on the outside that are looking in, who are, wanting to do work with you. If they know the people within the business are going to be way more apt to want to actually work with you versus, just making a phone call and just seeing a name. They don't know who you are from Adam. And there's a lot of strategies that I don't want to share either that are a little bit secret. that allow us to actually show up and stand apart from everybody else after those initial phone calls. So those little touches is what help you stand apart. And they're you just got to go find out what they are. Like you got to study marketers and understand what are these little things that we can be doing beyond just the front end marketing side of things that really helps you grow the business. So. I hope that that makes sense.
No, yeah, definitely
No, that
helped.
was good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot there too. I mean, and even having those personal little touches on the marketing side, on just because we're dealing with people. That's the thing. It's not just a client, like you just said. It's people. And I always talk about, like, with us, that's one of our core values is our clients are our friends, and it's like making clients your friends. And like, I just got off the phone with one. They were asking how the baby is. There was nothing even talked about business wise. It was just, how's your baby? How's your wife? How's Liz doing? Those are the relationships you want to build with your clients. Those personal relationships. We go to dinner with them. A few clients that got us gifts too. And I liked how you said, having deeper conversations with them, the importance of that too. And then also listening, listening to what they want, listening to their wants and needs too. Cause I think a lot of contractors struggle with that. They're set in their ways. They it is what it is. This is my way or the highway. Go with somebody else if you don't like it. That's what's going to set you apart, is just being able to listen to what they want and how they want it done, and then you executing on it as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's what they want and what maybe they need aren't always one and the same, right? They have certain wants, but maybe the budget doesn't allow for certain needs, right? So then, hey, what is it? Is it like my way or the highway? And sorry, we can't do this because we know best, or is it like, what can we do to get you what you want, to maybe build some longevity out of your investment of the property? Maybe there's some different solutions, and so as also, and I keep going back to the doctoring thing because I think it relates so much. It's the more skills that you also have, the more services and solutions you can offer to a patient, right? It's no different with what we're doing. The more we also understand about other solutions and how to do things, we can provide and create and value engineer, as we call it, something that maybe fits within that person's budget to have them feel like they're really getting what they want. And down the road, what happens is that when it's time to do a much bigger project, or if you've been authentic with them and you've told them what to expect, that, hey, this isn't going to last forever. This is what we would expect from doing this type of solution. When it's time to do it on a much bigger scale, who are they going to call? They're going to come back to you. And not to mention, they're going to refer you to other people because they feel like you're going to be able to give that same level of service to their friends, to their colleagues. And so, those are the best kind. Referrals are the best, right? And so they're usually the easiest people to deal with because they know more about you. You're not that much of a stranger. Somebody else has sold them for you because of the referral. I mean, think about with what you're doing, Bill, with some of the building. And I love watching your guys' videos. I sit there. I mean, it's awesome that you get to do what you do, right? Because building homes, like, how is that, like, that impacts their life so much? That's where they spend their time, right? That's where they're with their family, right? And they want to spend the money. They're trying to create something that is that they can call home. And so as you're doing those things, those referrals, as you probably know, those are the best people to do business with.
Oh yeah, and we've had quite a few referrals, and it's definitely the best. It's a lot easier, let's put it that way, than having a cold lead or whatever. It's when somebody's referred, you already almost have that established full trust with somebody right off the bat. Prime example, a referral that we got from a past client. We built 2 houses for his friends. I'm working with him now, wrote him a contract, and the guy's actually an attorney too, so he kind of wrote all over our contract. I went through it with him yesterday. I said, hey, this contract's been through a lot of local attorneys. I was like, a lot of it we're not going to change. I'm just letting you go. And as we went through, though, those words came out of his mouth. He goes, oh yeah, I trust you, Bill. Yeah, I trust you guys. I know, I trust that trust was gained from the past client. The client
Absolutely.
had a good experience on two houses, not just one, two houses. So that just went, and it made my life easier on the contract
Yeah.
negotiation to get
Yeah.
that done and get that fired through. So,
Absolutely. I'm always talking to my team all the time. It's like we have to be in the thinking about our customers, right? Where are they at? What are they thinking about? Instead of forcing our agenda on them and what we're trying to do. And to build that trust, it starts with those deep conversations, and it's important. I mean, communication strategies, all those kinds of things are critical. We talked earlier. You mentioned just the marketing side of things. I learned a long time ago, and it's a little bit of a derogatory term, but it sinks and it makes sense. And I learned from some world-renowned direct response marketing guys. They businesses do what they call incest marketing, right? And what they mean is they do what everybody in that profession is doing, and it's just a matter of time before everybody's really stupid and dumb, right? And so that's what I look at, and I say, you know what? The biggest breakthroughs I've had in business and the things that we're seeing here is looking outside the asphalt world, the marketing that's going on outside the profession and trying to incorporate those things with what we're doing. And we're building it. We're constantly working and tweaking on it to bring in new things. But most of the breakthroughs that we've had, man, and I've always said this, comes from looking outside the four walls and looking outside of your industry. Because most people within the industry, no disrespect, they've been doing the same thing for the last 50 years about marketing. And so I think anyone listening to this call is look outside of your own industry and what's working outside the industry, and how can as a marketing mind, when you're coming from that place, you're thinking, how can I take that strategy or that and bring that in and adapt it to my business and my prospective customers. And I think that's for me, one of the biggest breakthroughs is looking outside of the industry that which you're in. So
no, I love that. That was a huge point right there too. Is you know a lot of people, I think, me and myself included, I've looked, even on social media wise, stuff like that, at other builders, what they're doing, so on too. But it's like when you go outside the industry and try and look deeper into what's working for whoever on the construction side of things, or not even on construction side of things, with some of these bigger influencers, and I'm talking social media wise, obviously, too. I mean, there's so many good strategies out there that you're missing out on by just looking direct to your industry. And we all know too, in the construction industry, there's not a lot of people doing a ton of social media either,
yeah,
So, I mean, there's some big builders out there that I follow that are doing a really good job on social, and it's awesome to see too. But as a whole, the industry really isn't, committed to social media, which gives us kind of an advantage and
sure.
a step ahead too. Because I think if you're not doing it now, you're going to be kind of lost in the near
Yeah.
future here for sure.
And it's also too that I think the other thing is people get set in just one way to market, right? I mean, social media is a powerful tool that we can be using to reach the masses versus just one to one. But if you throw all your eggs in one basket, you don't look for those other avenues or channels that you can be marketing. I think that's a big mistake too. You need to diversify the marketing and your outreach, and it requires some grassroots stuff, and along with the technical things or the high tech stuff, it requires all those things. I learned a long time ago the worst number in business is the number one of anything, and you are absolutely vulnerable. One type of customer or one customer, one way to market your practice, one piece of equipment to do your work, like one paving machine, as they say, or one mill machine. One staff member who's responsible for a lot of different things within your business. If that one thing goes away, man, you're a sitting duck. I mean, you could be here one day and gone the next day if you were over rely on that one thing. And that's why I've always said, let's have multiple poles in the water, and let's not be vulnerable to relying on just one of anything within our business. If I can share any advice, that would be the big thing is that is number one is the worst number in business.
Yeah, because if one fails, then you got a backup plan.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
which always
Absolutely.
helps too. Um, I Let's talk about your business a little bit more. Let's go into that. I pulled some stuff from your website and so on too. Um, One thing you said is, you give property management company a simple approach to get asphalt, slurry, seal coating, and
Mhm.
pavement repairs done near effortlessly.
Mhm.
Innovative methods to avoid irritating residents and minimize tenant disruption. So that's a big statement.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
to do asphalt, not disrupt anything,
Yeah.
it's hard to do. So talk about
Absolutely.
that a little bit, what you're doing there with your
Oh,
business.
I think the biggest thing is taking everything off of the hands of the customer, right? They as a property manager, they have 1,000 different things that they're responsible for. I mean, we can go into, maybe it's a multifamily apartment community, right? They may have 4 or 5 different projects going on at one time, as well as the asphalt. So for us, we're taking the approach of thinking about them and keeping them in mind. The least amount of phone calls that we can prevent going to that property manager, the least amount of times that they have to come to the site, that they have to check in with us, that they have to get in their car and drive from their office over to the property. We try to eliminate all of those things, and there are strategies that we use that allow us to be able to do that. Communication, preparation leading into the project, um, also understanding how that customer wants to be communicated with, right? I love to have my guys over communicate to make sure that they always know where we're at within that project. So now we're making sure that we're asking that customer that exact question. How do you want to be communicated with? Because if someone doesn't want to be communicated with multiple times throughout the day, you can actually end up irritating that person. And so we're finding out what they want, and then we just give them what they want on the communication side. So, those are, and they're really just strategies. It's not like really the doing of the work that it is. It's everything that goes on before, during, and after those projects that allow us to make that kind of a statement and that attract more and more customers to want to work with us because the least amount of work that they have to put in, and they know on Friday afternoon they're going to leave their office and maybe we're doing a project over the weekend. If they don't hear anything and they can show up on Monday morning with a video and an email basically saying, hey, we're done, everything was great, let's maybe we get on the phone for one last conversation. Like, that's what they love and they want, because they trust that we're going to provide for them the service that they signed up for. But also, we took the work off of their hands because we understand they got a lot on their plate. And sometimes being a property manager, especially a community association manager, dealing with, in Southern California, Bill, you're in Florida. Some of those HOAs are high-end HOAs. You have a lot of demanding residents in there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as a community association manager, having to take those calls from those disgruntled residents over and over and over again, it becomes daunting, right? And so for us, we prevent all of those calls from going to them, and we handle all of that communication for them, and they love it. And so that's how we can make that type of a statement, and that's why I get excited about what we do for them, because once again, bringing the doctoring into the asphalt side, we're here to serve them. The bottom line, we're just trying to serve them.
Go go into communication a little bit too. I think a lot of contractors struggle with it with their employees, and you were kind of talking about over communicating even out in the field too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how are you going about this? Obviously, are you utilizing technology? How are you getting your guys to utilize that technology too? I've found myself personally, we're in the process now of trying to implement more systems to get our guys to do more out in the field with the software that we're using. Less writing on yellow notepads and
Mm-hmm.
more checking the box on an iPad type of deal, and then also doing maybe some job logs every other day for the client, which keeps us in line of where we know where the subs are, what they're doing, subcontractors, and so on. So how are you implementing that with your staff to over communicate?
Well, I mean, I think, the always the concern I have is, are we going to bring in another technology and another software that we have to rely on, right? And we already have all these other pieces of technology that we're using. So, we are real transparent here, bringing in more and more of those technologies so that we can better communicate more efficiently. For us, I mean, it's, obviously it's email strategies on site. We're using video and we're sending some really trick videos through email that allow us to do it simplicity. Yeah, that's the right word, right? Simplify it. That's a big word there. So, we're using strategies like that. We're using technology that allows residents to be able to be up to date with what's going on. I can't give away all of those strategies because it's kind of what we do, but we are
Oh,
using
come on,
technology.
give them all up.
Hey, Southern California is a very competitive marketplace. There's no doubt about it. So there's some things I got to keep a little bit close to my chest. But for the sake of our conversation, we are using and implementing strategies that residents, tenants for that matter, if we're in a retail center, they can get access to what's going on. They have phone numbers. They have, we're setting expectations with where we're driving these tenants and residents to. We have, phone numbers, 24-hour recorded or operated live operators, where we're fielding calls from residents. They can call that number 24 hours a day. It alerts our office, and we handle that for the customer, right? So those are technologies there. As far as with the customer themselves, once again, it is mainly the video email. It's email messaging. Maybe it's a phone call. We are bringing in more and more technology for a click of a button that everyone can have access to documents and things like that. But we're also finding, as we're trying to implement that stuff, it's not for every customer. Not some customers don't want to be bothered with those kinds of things either. So it's, there's a fine line. I think if anything, it's more us understanding and asking the questions about how the customer wants to be communicated with will determine to the level that we might implement more technology or use those technologies to communicate with that particular customer. And so, we become enamored, I think, by the bright, shiny objects sometimes, maybe too much. And it's easy to want to go just, hey, let's go bring this in here. But then if you're relying on too many of those things, they get lost. And it makes it difficult for staff and all those kinds of things to have to work from, 3, 4, 5 different softwares and programs and things like that. So there's a balance there for sure as it relates to the communication side of things.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight the main thing you just said there that stuck out to me too is ask the customer how they want to be communicated with. I mean, that's huge. I don't think a lot of contractors think that way. I think they're trying to think how to communicate better. They're always trying to come up with solutions, and they're just doing it versus just ask. That was such a simple thing that I think we all overthink too, and I should be doing that more too, like how during the build process, how can I communicate better with you guys, because I'm always trying to come up with all these concepts and video and doing all these walkthroughs and stuff like that. It's like I should just call the customer and see what's good for them, because what's good for them might just be something written on an email here and there, too. So
think about your productivity too. If you're we love what we do, right? We're passionate, or we should be passionate about what we do. If we're not passionate about what we do, why the heck are we doing it? So, shooting videos, taking, videos of projects and homes and walkthroughs, like we feel proud about the work that we're doing, and we want to maybe deliver that to customers, but sometimes they don't need all of that stuff, right? So then we have to kind of say, well, do we want to waste our time doing it for every customer? Let's find out what they want and let's give them what they want. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard for us to get away from that stuff sometimes, because I like to make sure that communication is huge, right? As far as the amount of communication, I just want to make sure that we cover our basis and we never leave the customer sitting there wondering or what's going on, or even worse, ignoring the customer. I think as we're talking about this stuff right now, I think that's probably where a lot of contractors they ignore, right? They ignore the phone calls. Our phones are always answered live. If we're not available, we will take that message with our a live assistant, and we are reaching out to that individual quickly as fast as we can. And people don't want to be ignored. And I think that's a really a way to sabotage relationships is to ignore people. And contractors, they get busy doing those things, right? And so it might be like, I can't get to that person until maybe later in the day. And so as you grow the business and you step maybe back from doing the work, that's what's such beautiful about what we're here and what ownership has been able to create here for us with a lot of hard work. Is being able to not have to be physically getting the hands greasy, because that's what I did as a youngster, right? I mean, I had grease underneath these fingernails. That's all I knew how to do. But once you step away from that, it takes on a different meaning in the business side of things. And so it allows you to have things in place and strategies that allow you to communicate quickly when things come up, or a customer or a customer you're doing a project for, or a potential customer has questions about. You can quickly be in communication with them. And so yeah, ignoring individuals is a quick way to sabotage relationships.
Love that. Love that. Nate, I'm talking too much. What do you got?
Dude, I've just been I just been soaking it in, man. Oh, Brian's a smart guy. So, and we work with a lot of HOA stuff as well. So I'm, that is very, very difficult to manage those projects when you have 80, 100, whatever amount of units.
Mm-hmm.
Times however many people are living in each unit. That's how many expectations there is. There's not one customer, there's hundreds of customers. And those jobs can go sideways real freaking quick. So
absolutely. Absolutely. And when you bring that up, right, it's like you think about, there's multiple sets of eyeballs in every one of those homes. And those individuals weren't part of the initial conversations with the property management company and you as the contractor. They have no idea about why you're doing the work that you're doing, when maybe they need a lot more, but the property management company and the HOA board came together and said, we don't want to spend that kind of money, right? And so when you show up on site, residents are like, well, why are you doing this? Or why didn't you do this? Or they look to you as the contractor like it was your fault. And so communication strategies that you have in place that allow you to communicate to all of those people can help, right? It doesn't prevent it 100%, but it helps prevent those people who are maybe dissatisfied. And now with technology, they can easily go online and they can just blow you up on reviews that are completely unrelated to what you did. For example, I've seen contractors in our area that are great asphalt companies, right? And they have 1 to 2 star reviews online, and it came from some of these individuals who weren't directly involved with the project. And they, online, they do it in such a way it's very difficult to get some of those reviews taken down, right? And it could impact, if someone's looking to do work with a contractor and they're online looking at reviews, and you have 1, 2 star reviews, I mean, it's gonna prevent people from calling into your business to do business with you. So we're thinking about those kinds of things all the time. What can we do to prevent these individuals from going online and writing negative reviews? And so we're taking a proactive approach to make sure that we have communication strategies using some technology that we can communicate to the masses within those big communities, so that we can prevent those things from happening.
Yeah, that's gold.
Yeah,
good stuff, man.
Yeah, really good. And such a huge topic on communication too. I mean, we can go on forever on this stuff because it's so critical in every business, and trying to figure like I was just saying, just trying to figure out the best ways to streamline everything to where the customer is aware of what exactly is going on. And in the home building process too, it's just I'm trying to figure out still, just those little things to where they're not calling us asking what's going on with my house. They shouldn't have to call. It's like, how do I give them something? And it's we have it right in front of us, but it's getting the team to utilize it too. Because I was talking with Brian Hess came and he did our team meeting with us because I wanted his side of it, because they've done such a great job on the technology side. I mean, he's built a technology based business,
Sure.
and he's done a really good job at it. And I wanted him to kind of get it across to my guys, that it's so critical, and it's going to make, though it's a little tough at first getting things going, it's going to make their lives 10 times easier down the road.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the customers are going to be way happier. Everybody's going to be on the same page. And it's not just, where the customers, there's trust, but they want to know what's going on with their damn house. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
and that opens it all up.
I think with your team, it's a matter of making it a habit. That's what I've seen.
Yeah.
If for me, using some of the technologies around the communication, I've been doing this 25 years prior to these 5 years on the medical side, using different types of technology, and maybe more towards the latter 25, because once I give away my age, technology changes over time and you have new tools and things that you can use. But I reinforce all the time with my team, you need to make using those things a habit so that you don't have to think about it. It just, that's what you're going to use to do the communication, and that's how you're going to ensure that they will begin to incorporate and utilize those things. But if until you make it a habit, you just forget about it, and it's easy to forget about, right? If it's not in front of you, for the success of the business, it requires that level of communication. And so it's like, as the team members, right? It's part of your job to utilize and incorporate these things that we put in place for you, because it makes your job easier, right? If you're a salesperson and you have sales goals to meet, if you want to get to those goals, right? And we put them out there for them every year, right? It's like, we don't want to go backwards. Like, we want to continue to go forward. And these tools are there to help you get there. And it helps. And on as a side of that is that it helps us grow the business. So it's a win-win for our team, and it's a win for the business itself, because these tools are helping us grow the business.
Love it. Love that. Another thing before we kind of wrap this up, unless Nate's got something else too, I wanted to, on your website I read, and I wanted to hit you with this question. We have made it our mission at Prestige Paving Company to be the premier asphalt paving contractor. So how do you become the premier company or the premier asphalt contractor? How have you made yourself that too, just for the listeners out there?
Oh, now you're going to have me give away more secrets.
I'm trying to get it out of you, man.
Listen, it is a competitive marketplace out there, and people have choices on where they go to do business with. So really, it's about us showing up differently and more often than everybody else. It starts with communication. Okay, the way that you communicate, the strategies that you use in your communication, the actual words that you use to communicate with customers is really, really critical on how you go about doing that. So those are things. And once again, it's more than just doing the work, right? That's what they're paying us to do. I keep driving that point home. They're paying you to have that work done. It's what goes on before, during, and after that allows us to be able to make those kinds of claims. And as a result, we've been able to grow the company from 5 years ago to where we're at today to where we're at right now, right? Without giving away numbers and whatnot. I mean, it's been a growth like this. And what's allowed us to do that, I truly believe, is the culture that we're creating here with the company and with the team, as well as those things that we've talked about earlier around the communication and the marketing and the sales, that allow us to continue to go that level, and compete in really one of the most competitive markets in all of the United States. I mean, Nate, you're in the Simi Valley area. I'm down in Southern California here as well, and California is a crazy marketplace. Not to mention that we're crazy here anyway. Right. That's why so many people are trying to move to Florida and Tennessee. I won't get into that, right? But the reality is that you have to make sure that you're doing things separate from everybody else, and differently from everybody else, to have yourself stand out. It's not enough to just sit here and stand and say, hey, we've been in business for 25 years. Like, we're the biggest, we're the best, we have the best equipment, we do the best asphalt paving. That's not enough in the marketing world to really separate yourself. And so There's those other things that have to take place to really have you stand out in your customer's mind, that you really are that premier company that they want to call on and rely on over and over and over again. And we're looking to have long-term relationships with people. That's why we are really cautious about those things we've been talking about on this call today. Is we're not looking to get rich on one project. We're looking to make sure that we can have a long-term relationship, that they want to hire us for years and years and years. Because what does it cost to go get a new customer? It costs you money. And so if repeat business is free business, and it doesn't cost you money necessarily to get the repeat business. So to answer your question around how can we make that statement, that's how we do it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, California's. Yeah, it's. I saw something today. It popped up on my feed that Governor Newsom just banned Skittles there too. So.
Well, there's more to it than that. I don't want to get political on this show. Governor Newsom, he's something else.
You guys can't have Skittles anymore.
There's more to it than that, than just Skittles. But it'd be one of the only few things I feel like he's ever done really well in California.
Yeah, it was something with the cancer or something. So.
Well, I'm gonna have to go stock up on Skittles now this weekend.
But now that you have kids, you'll be shocked at how many of those ingredients you'll start reading about.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I can only imagine.
No, they're all bad.
Yeah, exactly. Now I love what you said to wrap this up too, and I'll let Nate go as well. As the long-term relationship focus is huge. I've always been a big advocate on that. Focus on the long term. No matter what customer you're dealing with or potential client you're dealing with too, like in the home building side of things. I've said this before, is like, if somebody doesn't go with you this time, maybe money wise they can't go with you, there's some financial reasons or whatever, they just can't do it. As long as you're good to them, you play that long term with them, you still help them, you're still there. Yes. Later on, they're going to build the way I look at it, they're going to build a bigger house. They're going to sell the smaller house, families get bigger, and then they're going to build that bigger house, and who are they going to call? So focusing on that long-term play is always like my go-to, because business over time, it's going to build and it's going to build, because a lot of people are playing the now and playing the moment. You got to play the long-term. You got to play the future. So great advice right there.
The difference between salad and garbage is timing. I always say that. And so it's a matter of you showing up and staying in communication and truly serving the customer that maybe right now they can't really do it, but they know that they want to budget for that, or maybe it's not the right time. But in time, who are they going to go with? They're going to go with that individual that stuck with them and stayed in communication with them over the course of those years. We keep throwing stuff out there right on this call, but I think things keep coming up as contractors. It's like when they don't close the sale right, they just retreat and pull back and stop all communication. And that's like the worst thing that you can do. You have to continually nurture that relationship with that customer so that when the timing is right, you have a much better opportunity of that individual picking up that phone and reaching back out to you. And it costs money to get the phone to ring, right? So every time that you're not reaching out and following up and doing those things, it's costing you money not to do that. And I think contractors are notorious for that. They don't set up systems to continue to nurture the relationship with those individuals. So I couldn't agree more with what you're saying on that, Bill, for sure.
Cool. I love it. Nate, what you got?
Yeah, I would just kind of close it with too, like a lot of this stuff that Brian talked about, most of it, pretty much all of it is not sexy. None of it is fun to do, but this is the separator.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right. You can go on social media and look at all these gurus and how business, and they make it look all fun and glamorous. It's not like that. This is the boring work that it takes to make a world-class product and a lasting brand. And, Brian, the business that he's helping manage is not small by any means. I mean, they're a very large business. So like, this is what it takes to get there, is doing the work and doing the boring, dirty work to stand out.
What's easy to do is easy not to do.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Spot on. Spot on. Brian, this has been awesome, brother. Nate and I really appreciate your time today, man. Before we wrap it up, where can people connect with you?
yeah, I mean, directly, you can call my phone, 951-833-6565. You can find us at prestigecompany.net online. And you can see me on a bunch of different social media channels. Brian, the Asphalt Guy. That's what I've kind of gone by here within the industry. So Brian, the Asphalt Guy on social media.
That was one of my questions too. We should probably blur out that phone number because he's probably going to get spammed all hell. But that was one of my questions actually I had too. How'd you get the Asphalt Guy as the nickname?
Just trying to create a persona in a way that when people think about asphalt, who do they want to think about? I want them to think about me. And so if I'm doing things on social media, if we're communicating with customers and whatnot, if you have a team of property managers within a big organization, when they think asphalt, I want them to just remember me and have that image. So whether it's pretty or not, I don't know as far as the image of me physically, but the reality is that's kind of how I came up with Brian the Asphalt Guy.
You should trademark that, Nate. I'm surprised you didn't say that.
Right.
So awesome, man. We appreciate it. We really do. Appreciate you coming on today. And everybody that's listening, before we wrap this up, like, share, comment, subscribe. You know the routine. Go on iTunes, 5 stars. You guys have been doing a good job on that, on the review side of things. And with that being said, we will see you guys on the next episode.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, for having me. Making an awesome one, man. Appreciate you.
Yep.